Today I'm speaking to my great friend Aly Ramji. Now, among other things, Mediapix has one of Africa's most respected news channel, The Exchange. So before we dive into the subject of fake news, I wanted to get a sense from you, Aly, of how the media sector in Africa is being affected. How are you feeling the impact in East Africa in particular?
Thank you, Fabio, for having me on your show. Media has taken a major hit so far, and we have a considerable readership. But the interesting thing is that we've had to actually shut down our regional print operations across East Africa. Now, I'm not really sure about other publications because I am in lockdown as we speak, but the situation is such that I think that even distribution for our print publication has taken a major setback. So we've had to cut that. Regardless of that, our readership has grown significantly. Now, I would assume that many other publications who are focused on online, news and information dissemination have seen an increase in online readership. Much of this started at the beginning of the COVID-19, period, perhaps from, let's say, mid-March to current day. But it declined, we would say, perhaps about a month ago. And I think partly because just information overload on COVID-19. I think that, that also plays a significant role in terms of the mindset of people. From a purely financial implication, most media have actually been hit hard. And I know this because I've consulted with other, media editors in the region and all that. And, advertising revenue has dropped significantly. And we know that advertising revenue has dropped, quite a bit with respect to print publications. With respect to online, we're quite lucky because we do have a very good ad exchange, and we work with a decent provider of online ads and all that. But beyond that, we focused on subscriptions, and that has actually, interestingly enough, it has actually increased, and it's gone on the rise. And I think partly because we provide a lot of good information. As demand for good quality news, and specifically news related to investing in Africa, increases, we're able to monetize, our publication in a very different way. And this has helped quite a bit. But with respect to what has been happening over the past 2 months, overall, we have seen a scaling back in advertising revenue and an increase in online news consumption.
Right. Well, no, I hear you. I mean, we also experienced a little bit of growth in terms of readership, but it is becoming increasingly difficult business-wise. Silver lining there is that people are looking for news about investing in Africa. So let's hope that actually signs something positive coming out of this crisis. Anyway, now moving into our main subject of fake news. Different parts of Africa have deep-rooted traditions that often play a part on popular beliefs. We all heard the stories, right? I mean, we've seen in the past statements from healers that end up on the news and so on. But it seems to me that in this crisis, we are facing something much different. So I wanted to ask you if you believe that the right type of reporting is taking place right now, particularly in countries like Kenya and Tanzania, where you have significant readership.
For the most part, let's look at it like this. For the most part, humans are very bad at detecting what's real and what's fake. And I say that because fake news looks so real. Just yesterday, I received fake information about Vice President Ruto from Kenya being impeached. And immediately, people started, scrounging up, different news stories. And I ended up going online to determine if this was actually real. And it was very strange because I received this information from WhatsApp.
Right.
Having said that, we see that fake news is generally shared very easily. And humans also have a tendency of downplaying what's real and what's factual. With respect to COVID, we see that this issue of fake news is also something that, people fabricate. We know about, taking these steam baths to, taking this Madagascar concoction. But the issue comes down to what is real and what is factual. Now, I'm not saying that, the Madagascar concoction is fake. What I'm saying is that, has it been tested? And if it has been tested, perhaps what we're reporting may be false. Who knows? But I think that we have to be very careful with respect to looking at health and addressing information as it relates to people's lives. In Kenya, we've been getting the right amount of information dissemination, and the government generally reports what they're being advised to by their appropriate public health authorities, and in conjunction with WHO. In Tanzania, we have had challenges in accessing information, and I think that because of that, we've also taken a step back in terms of reporting on COVID news per se. We generally focus more nowadays just on the economics and understanding the economics of the pandemic on various countries. So that has had a major implication of how we reported at the beginning and what we're reporting right now. So I think that it depends on the type of information there really is. So with respect to accessing information and disseminating that information in Kenya, Uganda, Rwanda, for the most part, and other parts of Africa, our correspondents, our contributors, our journalists do get the right type of information by asking the right questions. Since we're a business paper, we've spoken on the impact of COVID on the economy, but that's about all we want to end up touching. We don't want to get into the health sector because I don't think that that is something we see ourselves as being professionals in.
Right. No, I feel you. I think the same way. And, that just goes to say that the more transparent the government officials, the better off people get the information. And, it's best for everybody. Now, in terms of measures to mitigate this misinformation, and at the same time securing the reporting of the current real news, a lot of people say that Africans are more susceptible to fake news. Do you agree with that?
No, I can't say Africans are more susceptible. As days go by, I think it's just everyone. And we see this across the world. And we see it even in the United States. We have a president that indicates that hydrochloroquine is actually helping him. And yet, you have NHS authorities in the United States or National Health Service authorities saying that, there are no plausible, effects that this is actually, improving the health conditions of the president. But sadly, we've had, deaths in Nigeria. And, I read reports online that people in the United States are suffering from heart palpitations for taking this medication. So I think when you look at Africa and you look at the world, I think fake news is a problem everywhere. I don't think that it's just, one can just classify it as an African issue. I think it's a worldwide, phenomenon that we need to, as individuals ourselves, we need to actually determine, is this information factual or not? Again, I refer back to the Madagascar concoction. I don't know, right? And I don't know how many of these concoction bottles have gotten to different testing centers, but I think that there is a classification where one would need to actually look at how is this actually improving health. Regarding local coverage, for us to attain news on the ground, it has been difficult to get around in Kenya, Uganda, and Rwanda. So what we do is we really be focused on phone interviews, getting information from local Bureau of Statistics and so forth. To a certain degree, our staff in Tanzania have had challenges in terms of getting the appropriate type of information. So there hasn't been any major information on there. But one of the most important things that we look at is getting factual information that actually enables our journalists to report the right news. With respect to business and investment, I think that again, we just work with government authorities on getting the right type of statistics. We work on creating features and analysis that actually matter to our readership. So if we report, or if we provide misinformative news, then we will eventually start losing that readership, because it's an issue also of reputation. So reputation risk is at hand. So we try to end up having our due diligence in a way that allows us to actually produce the right type of news and analysis and features that our readers can absorb and benefit from.
Right. No, I hear you. Now, on that note, talking about investments, I've been praising that if we look close enough, we'll find a silver lining in this crisis for virtually every sector. What would you say are the positives that the media sector might gain coming out of this current situation?
I think, right now there's a sense of information overload, right? I think, consolidation of media sometimes is one of those areas that one can look at. I think it's building partnerships, it's improving, syndication, but it's also looking at pivoting. I mean, the current situation of what is happening in Africa is different than what is happening abroad. I only know this from current news reporting and reading what is online from reports like CNN. But what we see right now is an opportunity to pivot. Many African publications have not gone into the subscription mode, have not necessarily gone into, driving podcasts and so forth. And these are areas that we're looking at. With respect to one of our other publications known as See Africa Today, we are pivoting more on pushing travel journalism as a resurgence of looking at opportunities in the travel sector post-COVID. So it all depends. Right now, the number of opportunities that there are in the sector are big, but one just needs to look at things from a very different perspective. If you haven't gone into, podcasts and you haven't gone into, video casts and all that, it's an opportunity to do so. If you haven't gone into subscriptions, again, it's an opportunity to look at subscriptions, but provide content that actually meets the purchaser of that subscription. So it's again very niche and depends on the type of publication it is.
Right. Well, thank you for that. I feel privileged. Me and everyone at FurtherAfrica are big fans of your work. So thank you for taking the time to talking to us today. I look forward to see you in Nairobi once we're past this crisis. Ali, thank you so much.
Thank you, Fabio, for having me.